Hello everyone and welcome to second session of the day. We are delighted to be here with you. For this session, we will be exploring the world of book tracking, focusing on the innovative platform known as Ariana Plus. I encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and engage in meaningful discussions through the session. Remember, you can use the Q&A box and interact with the speaker as and fellow attendees. Please note that this session will be recorded, allowing you to revisit the content later and share it with others who couldn't join us today. And as a special offering to IDEA Lab members, a written synthesis of this session will be provided, capturing the key points and takeaways. This summit is made possible by our sponsors, the Radium Foundation, Glassbox, AudioBoost, and DEMA. We would like to thank them for their support. Many thanks also to Simonetta, who has agreed to join us today for this session. I now give the floor to Laurent Lemer, Chief Technology Officer at IDEA Lab, who will say a few words.
Hello, everybody. So during these two last sessions of the Digital Publishing Summit, we won't talk about digital reading. We will talk about what the German call Industrie 4.0. It is the use of digital to make the industry more efficient, and our publishing industry needs to be more efficient. We've got a French project at the moment with two goals: contribute to a more efficient management of the book supply chain with eco-responsibility in mind, and improve information to authors on the use of their work. So the objective is to get back sales data from paper book, digital book, and audiobooks. Users will have access to global data only. For each title, each ISBN, they will essentially know how many units were sold the day before in France, Switzerland, Belgium, and Luxembourg. An history of sales will be available for sure, and some basic bibliographic data will also be available. The main users of the system will be authors and publishers. Publishers will be able to optimize reprints using this data. Independent retailers already have a choice of community platforms for helping them optimizing their sales, orders, stock, and so this precise project that we call for the moment book tracking, before we find a good French name for that, is not so targeted to librarians, retailers. It's more targeted to authors and publishers. We've got several issues to solve before we launch the program. And so it is key for us to learn from other initiatives in Europe, essentially. And this is why we have invited Simonetta Pilon from Ariana Plus in Italy, who will explain what is the solution put in place since 2009, I guess, in Italy. And the next session will be about BookNet Canada and the sales data service, which exists since 2005, I guess. And we will know more from Noah Gaynor also. But I will leave the floor to Simonetta Pilon to explain in details what is Ariana Plus. Thank you, Simonetta.
Thank you, everybody. Hi to everybody. Well, I would like to thank IDEA Lab for offering Informazioni Editoriali the opportunity to present its experience at the Digital Publishing Summit 2023 with a focus on the collection of sales data from bookstores. So let's go. Ariana. Who is Informazioni Editoriali? The name of the company is Informazioni Editoriali. We was born nearly 40 years ago in 1985. We are specialized in providing bibliographical database and services for the Italian book supply chain. We are the publisher of the Italia Books Print Alice, of the ebooks catalog eKitab, and of the Italian bookshop database. And we run Ariana, a teleordering system that is one of the focus of this presentation. We publish all our contents and services in our web portal, which is called eBook. What is Arianna? Arianna is an integrated system born to exchange product information and messages related to the order cycle in standard formats. The aim was to become more efficient in this task, and Arianna provides Bookshop with the Italian books in print, and not in exchange, we will see we buy the data, but at the beginning, in exchange, they provide Arianna with their sellout data, and we can forward this data to the entitled publishers and other operators of the market. And we can use the data in our statistical analysis. How it works. So Arianna was born in the last century, at the end of the last century. The initiative was a consortium of the main Italian distributor that was set up just to implement Arianna. And they decided that Informazioni Editoriali was the ideal partner to implement the system, because we were the owner of the books in print catalog, and we had the necessary expertise and skills to do the job. The goal was to standardize and optimize communication between operators, because at that time, of course, orders were inserted manually by operators of the distributors that received the orders via phone or paper sheets or promoters' information and so on. And was very, very expensive to insert this data, and of course, not very efficient. There were a lot of mistakes. The service was entirely paid by the distributors. The bookshop were offered with high quality bibliographic and information and the possibility to place orders to that distributor. And in exchange, they were asked to send the sales data just of the book published by the publisher distributor by the Telelibro consortium. So it was not the whole book sales data, but just a part of that. Telelibro, the consortium, broke up in 2003 after 5 years, because already the objective was achieved, the system was in place and was well spread in Italy. So the virtuous process that we had at the beginning, and that still is the base of Arianna, of this cycle, of this service, is that distributors send to Arianna their own price list with price and novelties and price and availability variation on a daily basis. Informazioni Editoriali take this data and work on it a lot and add a lot of information, cataloging them, adding covers, descriptions, audience, a lot of information, bibliographical information. And at the end of the day, so we receive the data during the night, we process and work on this data during the day. During the night, we deliver the data to the bookshop. So there is a 24-hour delay in the data. And of course, distributors and the other operators send all the information with a day before. I don't know, if they change the price on one day, they send us the new price, the day before. So we can cover this delay, and the bookshop will receive the right price, the right information when they need it. Bookshop, this is another key point, has been another key point in Italy, receive this metadata directly in their management software. Through the software, they can send order, they can make search on the database. That's very important, because booksellers has a lot of things to do. They do not like to have to access several different platforms to perform searches or to do things. They prefer to remain all the day in the same environment, enriched by our services and other services. One rule of Arianna, which is very appreciated, is that the bookshop, provided that the bookshop has a commercial relationship with the distributor or the publisher or the wholesaler, can put the order of the books without caring about which is the distributor. Arianna, on the base of the province in which the bookshop is located, sorts the order automatically to the entitled distributor. So the main advantages for distributor is to receive order always valid, and then it still, of course, is not so important now as it was at the end of the last century, but it's still a very appreciated thing, because it's a very secure and robust way to receive orders. And at that time, they received directly information on the actual sales of the distributor title. Now they receive it on behalf of the publisher, but so they can offer to their to their publisher a very important service, because the publisher can see for the same title and in the detail of each bookshop, if he wants, which is the amount of copies issued, so the sell-in, the sell-out, how many of these copies has been sold, and the returns. That's very important and valuable to optimize the cycle by the publisher. Bookshops, as I told you, receive rich books metadata, and on a daily basis can use this data even to place the book in the right shelf, in the right sector of their bookshop. And they can do that using our classification system, and can manage very efficiently, and that's very cost effective for them, price changes and returns for out of print items, because they know immediately if a book is going out of print. And so they have, in Italy, they have 45 days to return the copy or the copies, and price changes are immediately, so they do not lose economically in selling the book at the old price. Hanover, in 2003, Informazioni Editoriali took over from Telelibro, and we decided to make the system much more flexible. We worked for 4 years, and we enriched with new messages. We decided to switch from Edifact, that was not completely abandoned, but not nearly completely, to switch to XML. FTP became the only way to accept and send and receive messages. And that was very important to broaden to other distributors the possibility to join Arianna, because with the previous system, which was only Edifact based, it was very expensive, and little or medium distributors were not able to afford that cost. We announced the system in several ways, with new messages, dispatch advices, order responses, stock reports, and even bibliographic data were enriched. And of course, through the new ebook portal, we issued a new portal at that time, 2007, we offered the online service for Arianna. To get sell-out data was not easy at all. At the beginning, bookshops was really reluctant. As you saw, the system started with an exchange. So the bookshop that wanted to enter in Arianna and to have this bibliographic information, order, feature, and so on, was forced to send the sales data, but just for the books published by the distributor distributed in Arianna. Now, Bookshop, well, from the 2003 on, is not anymore forced to post, to give us their sales out data, their sales data, but they pay. And at that time, they didn't pay. And for us, it took 10 years to be able to collect all the data, and we have all the data of our bookshops starting from 2011. That year was the first year in which all the bookshop participants in Arianna send their book data complete and not just a part. The normal caution that usually bookshop has about their sales data was very difficult to overcome for us, because we are in a very peculiar situation, in a unique situation in Europe and even in the States, because Informazioni Editoriali is owned by one of the major players of the publisher market in Italy, Messaggeria. And so we are competitor of all our clients, because in our group we have a bookshop chain, we have an online bookshops, we have the two main wholesalers in Italy, the first distributor in Italy, and the second publishing group after Mondadori. So of course it was very difficult to overcome the reluctancy of bookshops and even of the other operator. But in that 10 years, the good reputation for fairly managing this information, and the fact that we decided, yes, the bookshop has to pay to stay in this system, but if they want to sell their sales data to us, we buy them. So the price, of course, the final price for the bookshop is very advantageous if the bookshops send to us their sales data. And in fact, the vast majority of bookshops send their sales data to us. Actually, at the moment, only publisher can buy the data, and the third parties, so distributors and promoters, can buy or can have them, but just on behalf of the publisher. So the business model is, well, the key element, as I think is understandable at this point, is the book catalog, the books in print. So getting this data is vital for the bookshops. And of course, they evaluate even the possibility of send orders and to receive order response, dispatch advice from the stock. Bookshops, distributors pay on the amount, on the traffic, so on the amount of order lines received and order response and dispatch advice sent. The order is much more expensive than the order response and dispatch advice that they send through us to the bookshops. Bookshops pay different fees depending on the amount of bibliographic information that they want to receive and in proportion to their sales. So it's not mandatory to send sales data, as I told you, but it's very, very cost effective. And the bookshop that do not send their sales data, we do not know how much is big or little in terms of returns. So they have a fixed fee, not proportionated to their returns, which is much higher than that paid by bookshop sending their sales data. Another very, very important point in Italy was the integration between Arianna and the management software of Bookshop. It was important for us that Bookshop, that these software houses develop the compliance with our system, but it was important for them being compatible with Arianna, because it has been and still is a very important, a key factor to bolster the quality of their software. If a software for the bookshop is compliant, is compatible with Arianna, is a quality software. That's the perception from the bookshops. And so they have been really crucial partners for us. We established a commercial agreement with them, and the commercial agreement, it was on one side because they selling their software for the bookshops. They go bookshop in each bookshop, and they explain their system and the possibility to enter in Arianna. So they sell for us in some way. So we have commercial agreement because we recognize this role, which is very important, but not only for that. Another thing very, very important is that without a collaborating software houses, we couldn't achieve our goals, because we develop new services, new features, a new way of accessing data. But if the software of the bookshop is not compatible, compliant with Arianna, the bookshop can't access or can access through our website. But as I already told you, they don't like to have too many instruments to access the data. It's for them, it is not efficient. We have contract agreement with each bookshop. That's in Italy is very important. I think everywhere is very important, because it's a sensible information. So the bookshop must know very well what is possible for Informazioni Editoriali to do with their data, and decide if they agree or not. So bookshop authorize us, well, we sell, they sell the sales data not in non-exclusive basis. So if they want, they can sell to other operators, but it doesn't happen really. And authorize Informazioni Editoriali to forward their sales only to the entitled publisher. Informazioni Editoriali can sell the sales data of Mondadori just to Mondadori, not to the competitors. So we do a complete different job from GfK, Nielsen, all the research market companies. We deliver punctual, daily, detailed and quality data, but to every publisher just for his own books. We are allowed to use the aggregated data, sellout data, for our statistical analysis and to forward them to third parties, in this case altogether, these third parties in Italy are GfK and Nielsen. Well, technically, the bookshop agree to send their data, the complete data, at the end of the day. So they must send at the end of the day or in the day after, and further delays usually are not admitted if they are not holidays, and sales data must be complete and correct. But the quality of the data is important. So we, apart from the agreement with the bookshop, we check the data, we work on the data. So sales data collected by Arianna represent more or less half of the Italian book market. We do not have the Amazon data. We do not have the data of one big chain, which is the Giunti chain, but we have the data from all the other chains. And in terms of independent bookshop, we collect more or less the 55% of the sales data. Our data include just physical books, so books and physical audiobooks. Do not include ebooks and liquid audiobooks. Some large book chains send the data aggregated. That means, I don't know, if the chain is formed by 120 bookshops, they send us the data daily, but as all these bookshops were just one. So the detail is complete, but the publisher do not know in which bookshop of the chain the book has been sold, but just in one bookshop of the chain. They send us the ISBN, number of copies, bookshop if it's not aggregated, and day of sale. The cover price is added by Arianna based on the actual price of the price at the moment in our catalog. So we do not have the real amount of the sale, if they made a discount or not. We check daily the fact that the bookshop has sent the data. If the bookshop has not sent the data, we recall the data by phone or by email. And we also check the quantity. If the quantity is too high or is too low compared to the average of the sales data of that bookshop, we contact the bookshop asking if they had some problem in sending the data, or if it was too high, if they did some, I don't know, presentation, for instance, something particular. So that's very important, because even a very well-established system as ours that lasts from 20 years still has problems, daily problems with sales data quality. It's a work that never ends. We have a delay more or less of 48 hours to be complete. On Tuesday, we are able to guarantee excellent coverage of the previous week from Monday to Sunday. Of course, you already have data on a lot of data on Monday, but we consider it complete on Tuesday. I'm not a software engineer, so I will read this slide with you. And so the system is developed entirely on the Subnet Weaver application platform. The technology used are rather outdated. We rebuilt the system in 2007. Of course, we did a lot of work on that platform, but the infrastructure is the one of 2007. And a technological renewal project is underway. We are in the assessment phase now, and we hope to start a new project within this year or at the beginning of the next year. SAP-PI is the integration broker and managing the sending and receiving messages via the SFTP server. And it manages the different formats that we support: XML, CSV, and still some EDIFACT message. And communicates with the application service via JMS queues. The service is accepted with a Java application. The business logic is implemented using Java EE. The application run on the SAP Java application server, and transaction is stored in MaxDB. In our bibliographical information are stored on Oracle. Data are transmitted via through the ASTP server of Informazioni Editoriali. AS2 protocol is only used for exchanging messages with a few online bookshops. That's more or less how it works. MagaPew is a new service, and a new, not only new because it has been implemented last year, but because it's technologically different from the rest of Arianna. Is based on REST API and the aim is to access stock availability of the suppliers in the Arianna system. The API client can request availability for one or more products, even if supplied by different suppliers, and receive back a real-time availability, of course, for the suppliers that support real-time access. Not everybody, the very little ones or even the medium ones, in some cases, not a real-time access. Or batch the data which is stored in Informazioni Editoriali database. So for all the suppliers, then send batch updates via file during the day. We collect, we put in our database, and we display the data along with the real-time availability. The technologies for this new service, MagaPew, well, the API have been developed in Java with Spring Boot and Spring MVC. The app is containerized with Docker, and PostgreSQL is used to store the availability data acquired from the suppliers. Future developments through the REST APIs, we will be possible to access catalog data, place orders, check the status of submitter orders, and more. But we have to renew our platform before. So we will start with this future development probably at the end of 2024 or at the beginning of 2025. So I don't know if there is still time, some number and figures. So that's doesn't need any explication. What I can say is that we have 1,000 more than 1,700 bookshops. Bookshops in Italy are more than 4,000, but as I told you, we covered the 50% of the market, because the bookshops which are not in Arianna usually are very little. Bibliographical record, we have 1 million of products, and in the whole catalog we have 1.5 million products, so it's a good coverage, the Arianna one. And well, I don't read you the number of lines of everybody. That's interesting. 16 distributors participate in Arianna, sending bibliographical records that we enrich and receiving orders. 2 distributors just send bibliographical records. They decided that it was too expensive for them to receive orders through Arianna, but they value Arianna a lot as a way to reach the bookshop with the information, with the daily information, very updated very quickly about the products that they distribute. So that's the trend of bookshop. So well, I don't know which color you see, because it's always different on screen, but the blue line are the bookshop in Arianna. The yellow line are the bookshops that sends data. So you see that is very, very similar to the number of bookshops in Arianna. Bookshop sending order are not so many, as you can see, because a lot of bookshops prefer to send order in a different, with different means of communication, but they value anyway Arianna because they receive the bibliographical data, and not only the order response and dispatch advice that they receive. If a bookshop is in Arianna, the distributor or the publisher or the wholesaler will send to that bookshop all the order response, dispatch advices, and everything, no matter which was the way in which the bookshop put the order. So the bookshop can make the order on the website of the distributor, while the promoter using Arianna, using other means, but it's very important for them to receive from Arianna all the order response, all the dispatch advice to organize the bookshop. This is the line of the bookshop that send their data, because there are big chains that do not use Arianna for orders, but just for bibliographical data, and send their data. So that's the amount. In this case, we didn't have the chain. At this moment, they began to be there. And so that's the global amount of bookshop sending sales data. This decrease in 2020, it was due to the Giunti chain that decided to leave Arianna. So in this case, this peak that you see here and then down is because several different distributors entered, but in 2000, in that year, from 2017 on, a lot of distributors were acquired by other or were closed, and so is not, well, they do not leave Arianna. That's what I wanted to say to you. So the number decreased because we are less operators. Publishers, the same. You see a big decrease in the last year, but between 2021 and 2022, but it's due to an activity of grouping the brand publishing brands together. So the total number is a lower number, but the number of books and of publisher in the system is the same as before. You can see that from this graphic, book records, they increase constantly. And well, the management software, we are more or less arrived to all the management bookshops software in Italy. Orders, that's a real decrease. 2021 was an exceptional year. In 2022, we had this little decrease, and now we are more or less as in the first semester of 2022, a little better. In the case of order responses, this decrease is due to a bug fixing that we did. We had a very, very big Italian distributor that wasn't able to deduplicate order responses, and so sent a lot of order responses. It was a big problem because, like you can see, we processed more than 250 millions of lines, and so we decided to fix the problem, and so you see this decrease, but no one left. Well, the story that could be interesting, I think, for you, apart from Giunti Chain, the story of Arianna is that if a distributor of a bookshop enter in the system, they remain. It's very, 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 very rare that someone leave the system. That are the dispatch advice. Of course, in 2020 with the pandemic, we had less. And sales data copy decrease because of the Giunti Chain leave of Arianna. That's all. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Simonetta. It was very clear. So I imagine that attendees will have some questions to put in the Q&A, but I will ask a first question to you. What is the level of details you give to the publishers? Do they see the sales data of individual bookshops or not? Your sound. You're mute.
Sorry. Yes, they have all the detail. In fact, it's not only used to reprint novelties or just to adjust the physical, but is very important for publisher and promoters, because they can check really, I don't know, if a promoter visit a bookshop, then can follow in the months that follows which kind of the book purchased or offered to the bookshop have been sold. So they can see each bookshop for each day, for each ISBN.
But as you said, because some of the retailers were making data sharing, paid data sharing, you are competitor of this financial exchange of data. Do you replace it, or do you?
No, well, I don't understand the...
Yes, in France at least, some retailers,
yes,
they sell their data to publishers. So I imagine that when you came to the market, you have replaced that.
Yeah, but we had the chance to begin first.
Okay.
So that's not happen in Italy because, of course, publisher prefer to receive all together because it's always standardized. Because well, what I didn't say, but I think it was clear, we receive the data in several different formats, standardized, but several different formats. And we deliver to each one just in their format. So publisher prefers to receive data from us because they know that if a new chain enters, a new bookshop enter, they receive the data without seamless, without any effort.
We've got a question. The question is Arianna Plus solely available in Italy, or are there any plans to expand it to other regions of the world?
Yeah, I would like a lot, but I don't think that is feasible. I mean, in our experience in Italy is that to know the market, to know the operators is crucial with this kind of data. Are very sensible. It's a very political job. Collect and send this data. There are a lot of overlapping with GfK, Nielsen. So I don't think, of course, in a technical point of view, we could have let's call it joint venture, something together, but not for Informazioni Editoriali. I think that is very important, it's very valuable to know the operators, to collect and to sell.
There is another question, but this time in the chat, and it's in Italian. So can I let you read it? You will be quicker than me.
So data collected by Arianna are accessible at the author. I think that is the same that has been, it's in Italian and in English. So are the data collected by Arianna also accessible for authors in Italy? Even Italian authors have asked.
Yes.
Yeah, they are not available to authors because publisher, well, it has been very difficult to decide which is the owner of this data. So the owner is the bookshop, but even the publisher, because the publisher's issue. And it was not so clear. It took a lot of years to make clear this to everybody. And so the only author that could access the data is the author publisher, because it doesn't have a publisher. But author can't access, and I think that publisher wouldn't like the access to the author. But apart from that, we could decide to do. We can't decide to do that because the commercial relationship between publisher and bookshops. So this data is, well, for our lawyers, do not pertain to authors. So of course, it would be possible asking to the bookshops and asking to the publisher. And I think that the answer would be no from the publisher.
Okay.
And Amazon, yes, Amazon refused to release the data to us. That's quite comprehensible. In each market, they release the data usually or to the association, like Association of Publisher, of Bookshop and so on, or to GfK and Nielsen to have data back. So of course, Amazon sales data are very valuable. We can't buy them. Well, it would be impossible for us to buy at the market price, and we sell it. So yeah, they refused.
Okay. In the data you get from retailers, I didn't see the inventory, the sell-in, what they've got in the library. Was it not planned?
It was a plan several years ago, more than 10 years ago. But again, it was very, very difficult to, well, they do not want so much to share because the publisher could see if they, or the distributor could see if they purchase books from others. I think that's the reason. And it's not so easy because the software houses must be very, well, in that cases, the real time or near real time is very important. And so in fact, as I told you, this very valuable access to the data usually is provided by distributors. Distributors know the sell-in, put the sell-in with our sell-out, with returns, and show to the publisher for each title or even for each bookshop, which is the balancing between this data, which is very, very important, of course. In fact, publisher can access to our system to see their data, their sales data, but nobody does it because they prefer to do it on the distributor side, because it's there that they see everything, and at the end they see even the invoices and everything. And so they use our site, our access, just when they want to perform sophisticated searches using cataloging. We use Thema to catalog books. So if they want to say how they sold some type of titles and not others during the long period, so they use just to more in an editorial way than in a commercial.
Okay, great.
Well, I don't know if I explained because.
Nice, that's understandable. Are there some other questions? Because we are near the end of the session. And we are even at the end of the session. So if there is no other question, I really thank you, Simonetta, to have been so transparent about what happens in Italy, how your system is done, what is the business model, etc. So really, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.
And bye-bye. And for the participants, you can stay in the lobby because the next session will start in 10 minutes. Goodbye.
Goodbye.